together for her. America is in trouble. We're in a kind of trouble more serious and more threatening than any in our history. We survived Great Depression. We endured Great War. We fought back tyranny in the world throughout our history. But what threatens us today can surely end this nation. Once again, we face economic troubles and the threat of war. But the real danger to America comes from within. It is a government that has become arrogant in its power it should never have to be American. It is the division in our nation that prevents people from arresting that power. We see corruption in our institutions of commerce and government. We see injustice in our courts. We see rioting against authority. And that authority, at times, is lawless. We see a culture that has become self-serving and demanding and imagines self-importance. Good, loving, intelligent Americans are growing increasingly fearful of America falling and becoming something that no longer provides liberty and justice for all. The American ideal is evaporating. And some Americans, like Lady Federalist, recognize that remaining idle and refusing to stand for what is right will be the end of America. There will be no America for our children or their children. And when good common folks find themselves facing a government that has become so arrogant in its power that it is willing to abuse and threaten its citizens, we stand up. We stand together. As America has grown, the federal government has taken control of over one-third of all public land. The Bureau of Land Management, a federal agency, is responsible for managing those lands for use by the American people. It exists to serve Americans and has been entrusted to manage our land. The Constitution does not provide means for the federal government to own any land outside of the District of Columbia. And the reason the founders did not provide for the federal government to own land in the state is because they intended the states to be sovereign and free in their power, with the federal government serving the states. When power is centralized, those controlling the power become tyrants, and the federal government is rapidly becoming tyrannical. Lady Federalist stood against that power, and it cost him his life. Stand By Me for Liberty is a movement that has grown out of the efforts of ranchers like Lady Federalist that are standing together to bring attention to tyranny of the Bureau of Land Management and the abuse of common Americans. The time is now for Americans to stand and resist the heavy hand of federal government, to see the authority and sovereignty of the states restored, and to see America return to a land that is free and just for all.
Okay, now we're going to bring up Alan Eccles, and he's going to do a roll call of our political prisoners, and then he has a little something he wants to say, so let's give him a hand. Alan!
I won't need that. Maybe just this year, though, not bad. Even though I didn't write a word of it before I got here. Just a couple of things. Been thinking it's fun. Been thinking since 2014, Buckerville. There are those that stood up for us. They stood up for all the people driving up and down the road. And there's lots of them that are paying a pretty heavy price now. Read the roll call of those that have been arrested. Dylan W. Anderson, Sean Larry Anderson, Schuler Barbeau, Ammon Bundy, Cliven D. Bundy, Dave Harold Bundy, Melvin D. Bundy, Brian C. Bundy, Gregory P. Burleson, Brian Cavalier, Blaine Cooper, Gerald A. DeLemus, Orville Scott Drexel, Todd Engel, David Lee Fry, the Hallelujah Band, Last Man Standing, Dwight Hamilton, Stephen Hamilton, Corey LeCue, correct me on the pronunciation, Richard Loveley, Micah L. McGuire, Kenneth Lindenbach, Joseph D. O'Shaughnessy, Eric J. Parker, Jason Patrick, Ryan W. Payne, Peter T. Santilli, who did nothing but just want to tell the world what's going on, Stephen A. Stewart, Darrell William Thorne, Jason D. Woods. Those 29 souls are still incarcerated. Political prisoners, at a time when that just shouldn't happen. Another list that have been released pending trial: Sandy Anderson, Jeff Banta, Jason Blomgreen, Shauna Cox, bless her heart, can't even talk to her husband, Wayne Hammer, Eric Lee Flores, Wesley Jar, John Ritzheimer,
Hoorah!
Hoorah, Joffrey, Janet, Neil Walker. There's those that have been indicted but have not been arrested yet. Thanks to a little bit of help from constitutional sheriff. That would be Travis Scott, Jake Ryan. I hope they remain free. I can say I didn't prepare anything, but while I was walking around here, I found my speech written. Got that piece of granite right there. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friend. John 15:13. Thank you, Mr. Robert LeBoy Pinnacle.
Amen.
I don't know what else I can add. It wasn't already added in this little book. Got it in. I'm trying to look at y'all. I hope y'all all leave here with one of these in your hand. I hope y'all all read it.
Does everybody have one?
Ma'am?
Does everybody have one handy? Because we're going to need it when Charlotte gets up there.
Turn to page 35 in your pocket Constitution.
I have every right. But I am free to live.
There was a time, a few short 100 years ago, the people had fled tyranny and came to this country. Tyranny followed them over here. They tried to have taxation without representation. They didn't give them a voice. The people that were here, they just wanted to live peaceful lives. After so much tyranny, good men came together. They said, we've had enough. And they wrote the Declaration of Independence. Action of the Second Continental Congress, July 4, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. Y'all heard these words. Let's study them again. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the sovereign. That whenever any form of government becomes obstructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object in bitches and designed to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide due guard for their future security. Such has been the patient suffering of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter the former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpation. Thank you, Belle. All having a direct object, the establishment of an absolute tyranny over the state. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. That's going on today, folks.
Amen it is.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasion on the rights of the people.
The Constitution is free.
He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise. The state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsion within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of the state
That's how you do it, baby.
for the purpose of obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration still, raising conditions of new appropriation of land, is obstructing the administration of the laws establishing judiciary power. It made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payments of their salaries. He has created a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in time of peace and in armies without the consent of our legislature. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
I think they know that, right?
He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and acknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. The quartering large bodies of armed troops in Oregon were protected by a mock trial for punishment for any murders which they commit of the inhabitants of these states. We're cutting off the trade with all parts of the world. For imposing taxes on us without our consent. For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. For transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. For abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamental forms of our government. For suspending our own legislatures, declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. We have advocated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous age, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the sea, to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us. He has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages. Alright, I take that little adjective because I'm working on it. Whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all nations, sections. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injuries. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity. And we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have turned deaf to the voice of justice and sanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces